Well, straight into the sun that way. Good morning. My name's Graham Rasmus. I'm from Flagstaff Marine. We have the privilege of presenting Shoot the Breeze here every morning at 8 a.m. During that session, we'll go through the courses for the day. We'll also have some great guest speakers sharing their experiences of sailing in and around Australia and some of the great races that they've done. As you can see, and if you can't, I'll point it out, we represent two brands in particular, Beneteau and XS Catamarans. When we're not selling boats, we're passionate sailors. So in addition to myself, Shane is here, Campbell's here, Graham Roberts, known as 2G, is here, and Mika is here. So there's a fair few of us around. If you want to come up and have a conversation, you're most welcome to. I'll be on board the first time we've actually had one of our XS Catamarans up here. You can't miss her. She's got a grey hull and a huge big white spinnaker with XS on it. So I'm looking forward to getting her out on the water in what looks like it'll be a great week. A couple of housekeeping notes. When we're leaving the marina, there is commercial traffic that's going back and forth, smaller ferries or even the larger ferries. So just give them room, the usual port to port as you're going out if you can. Peter, who's sitting here doing some videoing, is looking for some volunteers to wear a head cam. You'll carry the head cam for the duration of the race, and at the end of it, Peter will take it away, download it, but also give you a free copy. Just trying to get some excitement of what it's like to be out of the water. So if you'd like to volunteer as a skipper, owner, to be a head cam wearer, see Peter after the race. So each of these sessions, we're extremely fortunate to have Michael Speasy run for us, or Speasy as he's known. I'd run through his accomplishments in sailing, but we'd still be here at about 11 o'clock. So I'm just going to simply say, over to you, Michael, and thank you.
And a big thanks to everyone for turning up, and also Graham and his team, Beneteau, obviously, XS, the Flagstaff staff. The planning for this, believe it or not, goes in the day after we finish race week for the next year. So and there's a bit to it, just doesn't happen. And also to the island and AV partners and everyone for just making this available. The big thing, and it's probably the talking point, and you're going to get sick and tired of hearing, is this exclusion zone. And while it's a burden to us, I guess we've got to remember why there is an exclusion zone there and respect that and be mindful that 4 of our brothers unfortunately gave the ultimate sacrifice for there. There's a warship in there. They are tracking it, you see, coming up on AIS. There isn't a lot of distance there. I think that's about 0.6 of a nautical mile. I don't know anyone who's been following it, but the original exclusion zone basically went there and would have prohibited us from going there, which would have made race week very, 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 very difficult over the week because we're all based about tides to do. So we've managed to negotiate with them within reason. They've been very good there. We are copping flack for boats going through there, even though they might not be part of our fleet. That's just bureaucracy for you. One thing I didn't realise till we were out yesterday, if you'd look at this chart here, there's a zero water there, and that's only 0.6 of a mile past there. So that says Roundhead there. What would that be? That'd be probably 030 or something. Oh, no, probably 060 off Roundhead. That zero water is probably roughly where my finger is. So there's not a lot of runway that way. You're going to have to deal with it. It's the same for everyone else. There was talk, so I will put marks there. If you get your AIS up, they have virtual marks there. They come up. We believe that the lats and longs quoted are very, 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 very close. The long and the short of it is, I just don't think you'd want to push it. I believe if you do infringe it, it'll be a DNE, and that's a disqualification, non-excludable. So it'll cost you a week. But as I said, just reverse engineer that a little bit. Just be mindful while it's there and respectful while it's there. You know, it's basically sacred ground. So enough of that. You will hear more and more about it. The courses have just been issued. I got a text on rating. Is there a text going out with... And I'm not going by memory here, that the trailer yachts are 40. Is that right? Has that come up on the text? Can we get a nod before I start telling you bad mail? The rating divisions will be 5, 6 and 7, I believe. And then the majority of our fleet that's starting off Dent will be, is it 1, 2 and 3? Okay, so we can basically get a gist of what's happening. We've been doing this a long time with the blessing of Beneteau. Probably timely to remind you that before we actually did this, Beneteau were actually putting free drinks on for the whole fleet for at the Hesperus for, and I've never seen more of them. And put some genius in France. What was the name, Shane? Madam, yeah, thought, I'll put a drink on for everyone at Helmond Island. I think she thought there was about 30 boats here. There was about 200 that year, and we ran it for about 10 years, where it was just free grog for about 3 years. And I think common sense actually put in, I think, and then realised we were spending about $250,000 a year on free drinks, and you never seen more potential Beneteau boat owners wearing thongs and boardies in your life. So then that's how this started, to put something on. So in that old time, nothing's changed. The islands are still in the same spot. The tide floods south, ebbs north. There you'll see it, the arrow there every day. And tide is a big consideration here. So today, I believe these are shoot harbour times. It's plus or minus 10 minutes. There's an old saying, it always turns on the edges earlier. Yesterday we were out training, and as of last year, we subscribed to this specialised tide technology for this week only from Tide Tech, I think it was. It's a $300 subscription. And the detail that we actually get just overrides with the little local anomalies, like little things here and there. And last year we ran it, but unfortunately every one of our opposition also had it, and you could see the guys who had it and didn't have it, like we were just 5-6 minutes ahead, just using the little things there. So how do you pick the tides? You know, we're great. We've got the full latest, greatest 80 grand worth of Brooks and Gatehouse gear, and can tell you basically anything. A lot of you guys don't have it, but you all have a course over the ground, whether that's on your Navigon, it's over your phone, and boat speed. Just work that out roughly. Difference between your wet compass and your COG, your course over the ground on your GPS, or once again on your phone on the Navionics. You can do it and you can calculate it yourself. Every time I go out, I always do a quick audit on my instruments. When I say audit, I'll just poke the boat motoring out head to wind, make sure all my dials are saying 0, 0, that my true wind angle is the same as my apparent when the boat's motoring, just little things like that. The other thing I always carry, I just always have a hand-bearing compass with me. It's just unbelievably how good that is. Just talking of tides, I remember one year, I think we had the Corby 36 up here about probably 10 years ago. We came around the bottom end of Pine. We had to get sou'easter. We had to get round here and finish up this way. In fact, a very similar course, I think, to what maybe one of the courses being done today. The difference between our heading and our course over the ground was 32 degrees, being moved our right to left. It is massive. You only want to cross the tide once. You don't want to go and live in it, and that'll come back into play whether we're going back from the North Mole group on the final day of proceedings and all that. But anyway, let's get back to today. The all-important trailer boats. A lap of honour around Hamilton Island, pretty straightforward. We know what the tide's going to do. As I said, it's going to be, you'd be going upwind with the tide. So what's that going to do to the water? It's going to be choppy out there. In fact, I'm sure a few of you have been up to the deck already. You can see all the white water, angry water there. If your boat's up to it, we always sail towards the angry water up here in the sou'easter, because you know that's where the tide's strongest. So the little trailer boats, and we know that already, so there's no point, you know, when you do come here and get ready to set a spinnaker and have the gear on the wrong side. Think ahead, you know, on your chat there before you motor out in the passage. Have a chat as to what's going on. All our coloured divisions, Hamilton Island divisions, basically, where are we? 1, 2 and 3. So you're going to start here, go over to Pine or down to Spitfire, and I think the other one goes to Cole and Ann. I think by memory too, we must be missing one. But basically it's the same program. This exclusion zone, I said we'd be talking about it a lot, is certainly going to come into play. As I said, what they haven't advertised and what that doesn't show is this. Just bear in mind here too, what I just said about that tide, how we lost bearing that day in the adverse tide, you're going to have that with you. So don't try to get anywhere near a lay there, because you'll be sprung sheets or cracked off to pop there, and don't think, oh, I'll just shave that corner and go through that imaginary line. A, it's a $4,000 fine. You'll be up, as I said, the jury's not going to have a sense of humour at all. So basically, you know, you don't want to get within a couple of 100 metres of it, especially with the tide, because you won't be able to get away. Your boat will be moved left to right by a knot, at least, a knot and a half probably. So if you think you're laying there, you're actually probably going to go into the exclusion zone. Up to you to work out if you're going to Spitfire, which way you go. We've got to deal with it actually coming back from Bainham Island on our course. Like Bainham Island's over here. We come out there, which side of Pentecost we go. I haven't spoken to my navigator yet what we're going to do or what our plan is, but it's going to come into play all week. Hopefully it'll get lifted. They are working at it. You'll see the warship, the Royal Australian Navy warship in there. That's it. Not a lot to say. The tide turns there. There's variation of the courses. What we tell you here is in good faith. It's not an official part of the race committee. In terms of weather today, this is issued by Ken Batt, and basically saying 180, which is south, to 140 at 9 o'clock, and it's slowly pulling east. In my pocket on my phone I have the thing from Roger Batten, which is a prescription as well, and it lines up pretty well. I'll get that email for you and we can compare the two. Just bear with me. Roger Batten. So Ken Batt is saying, yep, Ken Batt is saying here today, Sunday, 8 o'clock. So let's go to 10 o'clock, 150 to 170, 18 to 22. Ken is saying at 11 o'clock, 160 to 120. So he's got a little bit more east coming into it early. A little bit down pressure. He's got the lower there. I've found Roger's stuff tends to be a little bit more uprange over the years. Clouds goes to 12 o'clock. He's saying 140 to 160. So that's basically a 10-degree clock around, still 17 to 21. Ken is saying 13 to 23. And he's got as far east as 110. You probably noticed those who were out in the water yesterday. We had the southerly front came through. And I was surprised the breeze actually went that far east. So we know the breeze is basically going to be going anti-clockwise all day. And then Ken's got it going down, like we'll be off the water there, down to 13, as low as 13, and Rogers at 15. So there's going to be puff there all day. Obviously, if you've missed the gate with the tide, you're going to have to get out of the tide. If you're going upwind, if you're in a slow boat, well, and bear in mind, I'm sure everyone understands the 12th rule of the tide. The first hour it runs 1/12, the second hour it runs 2/12, the third and fourth hour 3/12, the fifth hour 2/12, and the sixth hour 1/12 in terms of strength. I'm sure we all know that, but it's just in the mind, so you don't get total slack water. You'll get a little period of slack water, but the last hour out and the last hour in, there isn't a whole heap of water movement. We're all going to get out in the water. I don't think there's any more housekeeping, Graham. Any questions? As I said, I came sprinted down from the office. I was still working on finalising courses. You'll notice in your SIs, there's still planes landing here. You'll probably see the boys out the back of the runway. That's another thing. We don't want to fly around. You know, we're on final warnings in a few places here. We've had a few fly-arounds. We've been pretty good the last couple of years. You've got to do what you're told by, if ushered away by the airport marshals, and bear in mind those guys are not sailors. They don't care about your race. So manage that. I will just make one other comment about finishing here, especially that we're going to be finishing with the tide coming from the south going north. The breeze always tends to head or go forward when you get near that runway. And you can see why. It's just a geographical thing where the breeze is funneling through there. What you don't want to do is be caught with the wrong sail up there. We always have a jib plugged in, the foil ready to go, almost 6 or so feet up, that we can jettison the spinnaker at any time. There's plenty of breeze. If it is going to happen, make your decision early. If you make it with the tide up your stern coming in here, you'll you'll be get a wash through. And I'll probably shallow the line up a little bit to try to deal with the airline traffic as well. Keep your VHF stations on. That changes whatever start line you are on the week. You can't just sort of glue it on, I can't remember, it's 77 and 70. Yeah, either you go 72 and 77. That changes day to day. Apart from that, enjoy the week. Sorry? Yeah, guest speaker tomorrow. I'm trying to get Rico off Wild Oats, just seeing on his thing. We've got some really great speakers through the week. A couple of Hobart legends, seeing it's a windy week, talking about seamanship and all that. But we got time to go another minute? Yeah. You know, if this was a light air, you know, we're looking out there at 5 knots, we'd be talking about how to keep your boats going in light air and all that. Armed with all this knowledge, and, you know, the sailing instructions and notice of race have been up there for weeks, or in the notice of race case month, we basically know what we're doing. Another little shortcut, in those SIs, the course numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are day 1. The next ones will roll over to day 2, with the exception of the long race. And you can work out from where you're starting, what likely, right through to about the end of the week, what course you're likely to be doing the next day. So you can see it's more than coincidental that, with the exception of 40, and we're just trying to keep these guys in smooth water today, the trailer yachts, that 1 to, I think we're 1 to 7 today, so it'll be 8 to whatever, but you'll be able to nut it out a little bit an hour. Look at where you're starting, look at the course length. Obviously 7 that we haven't put up, so 30-mile course, which should obviously be for the 100-footers, so you can actually dissect and plan your day tomorrow. Plan tomorrow tonight. Clear comms, seamanship, sleigh manoeuvres. You're going to have the tide. What are you going to have? You're going to have the tide against you at the start. So, yeah, when that does turn, you've got the tide with you. Then past start, you're going to have that at the finish. But you know, don't get washed through. And then later in the week, don't do an early start there. Anyway, there'll be a whole heap of tricks from people talking to you over the week with far more experience than me. And thank you for your time. All the best. Have a good day out there.
Thank you, Michael.